Hi, everyone. Today we have Dawn Lewis, the Dawn Lewis, massage therapist since 1995 and the creator of SMRT and the founder of Full Circle School on our show. I have a real life celebrity on my show. This is so exciting. We're going to be talking today about opening schools and teaching adults because this is such a hot topic and people are wondering how they can expand their careers and how they can support other people in the industry and teach their niches and area of expertise. And this is just such a fun topic, but there's a lot that goes into it. So we'll break it down into a couple different steps. But Don, you can definitely take over as far as a little bit about you to let our audience know about you. I could brag about you all day, but I like hearing people brag about themselves.
And I never brag about myself, honey. I never even tell people about me in classes. I really started operating a school almost immediately after graduating massage school because the school was owned by my mother. And so it was very quick. It was actually while I was in massage school that I was running the school for the most part. So I've had schools to own, operate, teach in for the last 30 years, the whole time I've been a therapist, and have gone through the approval process numerous times and renewals, and I've been approved through the NCBTMB for continuing ed since sometime in the late news. I let that approval go once and then got it back in the late 2000s. I've done all of that continuously. I think through the NCB I have, God, I don't even want to guess. My guess would be 40, 45 classes approved. So it's a pretty constant thing. And right now I'm sitting in a car in Maine, having just taught a class in Portland, Maine. So this is a constant in my life. The teaching, basic programs, 650-hour training programs, continuing education, all of that. So what are your questions about schools and about teaching?
Yes. And as we talked a little bit earlier, I was mentioning our good friend Jess. She is opening up a school as well from scratch, which
Yeah.
is a little bit different than taking over a school that's already established and inherited. But what was that process like for you, Don? Like whenever you took over your mom's school, did you have to like change buildings? I know in Colorado there's a lot of crazy regulations. You went through some crazy shit a couple of years ago with
I did.
yeah, I forgot exactly what that was about.
Yeah,
It's
that's
it's
the GPOS in Colorado. That's the government agency that regulates all occupational schools. And so, had I bought my mother out of that school, they would have insisted that I pay them. Back then, it was like $2,000. And really, it is like opening a new school. You're keeping the same curriculum, but you're paying the same money in Colorado to do that. I ran that school for 2 or 3 years and then turned it over to her and opened Full Circle. And it's the same process. They want the same amount of money in Colorado to do that, to open a new school. Different states have different rules, not intensely different. The goal of those agencies is to protect the consumer, to protect the student. So it's not about you at all. They're not guiding you, they're not attempting to help you. It is all about protecting the students from you. They also are not really concerned about massage therapy. They regulate all occupational schools. And so it's not about our industry, it's about you being a school in general. And so there are certain refund policies and policies that you have to have laid out in your catalog and things that you have to do with the consumer because you're regulated by the state.
so when you say refund policy, does that mean if somebody gets a scholarship and then they decide massage isn't for them and they drop out, are they asking for a refund or something on their investment?
Scholarships are different. Like you cannot become approved for federal continuing education or for federal financial aid for at least 2 years after opening your school. And that process takes a year on its own. And typically you get accredited before that, and getting accredited takes a year. So the process for being approved for federal financial aid is detailed and difficult. That's where Pell Grants and our scholarships would come from. They get those anyway. If they drop out, the school is penalized by the government because they've dropped out too soon. There's a window of time that they have to stay in school so that the school is not penalized. So federal financial aid can be difficult. If they get a scholarship from the school, they're obviously not getting a refund for that. There are people who pay for their education all up front. And so let's say that our tuition is $10,000. There are people who give me $10,000 right away. And then 6 months into school, they drop out. The way that the refund policies work in Colorado is it works off of a grid. If you complete 10% or less of your training, the school owes you 90%. The way that the refund policies work is all by percentage. So let's say somebody takes 11% of the hours within the program. I only have to refund 75% of their money. But these are legalities that they need to know right up front. They have to know that before registering. That's the law. That's the agency's way of protecting them.
So the accreditations, how does that work? I'm sure it's state by state, right? Or is there some national thing? What can people know about
No.
getting their accredited or their school
Accreditation
program?
is all national. It's not state. So in order to offer a basic training program, you have to be state approved, but you do not have to be accredited. Accredited is a national thing. We went through COMPTA, which is the Commission on Massage Therapy Association, Commission of Massage Therapy Association. CO and COMPTA is who most massage schools are accredited by. They understand massage. What they do is they vet you. They vet your program, your teachers, your location, your building, everything that you're doing. They insist that you do specific things in order to enhance what's happening with your program. And after they vetted you, then they do or do not accredit you. Accreditation allows you to then take federal financial aid, which is another year-long process.
And does that have anything to do with let's talk a little bit about the massage franchises and how they affect school curriculums and students leaving school to get jobs and stuff, because obviously they want their slice of the pie as well, and schools do benefit from it too, but I don't know enough about it to speak on it, of course. So how do you feel about that whole, the franchises kind of slithering their ways into the schools to offer job placements, but under the contingency of you have to do things a certain way?
This very much started back in the early 2000s with Massage Envy. And when Massage Envy kind of exploded into our world, Steiner was already a corporation by then. Steiner corporate schools were already a thing by then. That started with the Utah School of Massage, and Steiner was growing across the country. Massage Envy, Emmy, and Steiner kind of packed that the Steiner schools would start teaching to Massage Envy protocol. And Massage Envy then would employ many of their graduates. And because when you take federal financial aid, you have to place your students and you have to keep a certain placement rate in order to continue taking federal financial aid. Massage Envy was very beneficial for these corporate schools, Steiner schools, because it allowed them to place their graduates at high rates with Massage Envy. Then what Massage Envy would do is say, well, are you a deep tissue therapist? And therapists would go, well, yeah, I know deep tissue. Okay. And that's all they would book them with. And so the burnout rate was typically under 2 years, that people just, their hands were falling off. They were in pain. They couldn't handle working there anymore. But what that did was there was constant turnover at the spa. And that then allowed the schools to constantly place their graduates. So it was this really nice working relationship that Emmy and spas after Emmy with Steiner, with corporate schools had, right? Very, very nice working relationship because they just fed each other, which was lovely. Steiner bought Cortiva, and that branch went bankrupt fairly quickly. And then Steiner was in a little bit of trouble. And at the same time, this was back in about 17 or 18, independent massage schools started closing. And suddenly there just weren't enough massage therapists. But by that point, we had ME, Massage Heights, Spavia, Elements,
Hand and
Milk and
Stone.
Honey, Hand and Stone. And at this moment in time, I would say Hand and Stone is bigger than Massage Envy. And what's begun to happen is because so many massage schools have closed, And Steiner sold their Cortiva branch to ME, to Massage Envy. They closed most of those locations. The spas themselves are now teaching basic training programs to supply their spas. So down in Tucson in particular, there are 2 or 3 spas down there that have gotten approved their own training programs. And then the corporate schools that still exist are teaching mostly at this point to hand and stone protocol, not ME. How do I feel about it? It's business. I mean, I understand the business of it. Is it right for the massage industry? Not in the slightest.
I find it
But
predatory, but that's my opinion,
yeah,
not a fact.
I agree. I completely, and I think it hurts people. And these therapists spend $17,000, typically close to $20,000, getting trained, getting licensed, and then they go into an industry that's just going to very quickly cause them pain, wear them out, and they're not able to continue working. It is very predatory, but from a corporate standpoint, it is business, right? One feeds the other. So yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that those companies look at people as disposable churn and burn robots, which is unfortunate. But
Absolutely.
and for anyone listening, I don't actually hate the franchises. Like they have what other small businesses don't have, which is structure, policy, procedures, and protocol. You get paid
National
when somebody
advertising.
great SEO. So there's definitely a time and place for that too. And of course, I'm sure in school, most schools, I think they need to be transparent about what to expect after graduating and leaving the workplace, because I didn't learn in school anything about the different types of environments. I went to work straight for a chiropractor because I wanted
Mm,
to be a fixed it therapist. I wanted to be a real therapist. I didn't want to do any of that pampering shit. Turns out I love the pampering shit and I hate
yeah.
orthopedic medical and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they don't teach students what the different environments are. So I feel like people aren't even educated enough to know what the options are in order to make a discerned, proper decision for themselves.
I think they're trying to keep some of that quiet, because if they told you that they were putting you into and turning you out into a turn and burn industry, you wouldn't be very happy with the fact that you chose to get this education and come into this industry. So I think on some level they're trying to keep some of that quiet, right? They don't say words about it. And if they do, it's things like I know a therapist who went to school in Arizona. They didn't teach them any business at all. They, when she asked about it, they said, well, you're just going to get out of here and go work in a spa, so you don't need any of that. So if they do tell them things, it's kind of flippant things like that. We're very particular about telling our students, our graduates, all of the different places that they can work and what that looks like and what that means. And it doesn't mean that I'm constantly promoting you should own your own massage business, because that's not right for all people. That doesn't work for all people. Some people are good at owning their own massage business and others really, really are bad at it. And so the franchises, depending on the owner, can be really good for some therapists. The
I don't think
symbiotic relationship between the school and the franchise is absolutely predatory. But the franchises can be really good for some people.
I don't think enough people realize to whenever they say I want to go into business for myself. That's great. That's what I did, right? But working by yourself as a solopreneur and then getting so busy and having to hire help and saying, oh, I just need 1 or 2 people to help me every now and then. I'll pay them 50%. That's how it starts off. And then you start getting more busy and you need more employees. And then you're caught in this trap of shit. I was a solopreneur. I got too busy. My hands hurt. I need to make some extra money. And now I'm stuck with a bunch of therapists that I'm overpaying from a business standpoint and not making any money. And then we continue to fuck ourselves over as business owners because we don't know the proper way to structure having a staff. And I'm guilty of that. I did that. I remember I started off as a solopreneur, got really popular and famous after Phelps won the Olympics because I specialize in cupping. I had a great therapist that helped me out. She's still my number one favorite, most perfect, ideal therapist I've ever had. And she was amazing, but we got so busy, we just needed more people. And I realized, oh shit, I need to expand and move into a different building and hire more people. All hell broke loose whenever I changed from 1099 to W-2 to do it the right way. And that's where
Yeah.
a lot of it comes from, is industry too, is knowing that you've been misclassifying people after years of doing it the wrong way, but you've justified it for so long. How can you possibly get yourself out of it? And that's the conundrum I see all the time with people who do say, I want to own my own business. They don't realize, well, does that mean you're going to have a staff as well? Because you have to think about.
There are an awful lot of massage therapists who actually prefer to be paid on a 1099 because they want control of their own schedule.
Yeah.
And
I
so
mean,
when
I
you
do
switch to employee and you switch to W-2, one of the things about that is they have a schedule. This is your schedule. Show up at these times. And many therapists do not like that. And they don't really want to ask permission to take vacations and go through all of the things that we go through as employees. They want control of their own lives, and so they're okay being paid on a 1099. It's the IRS who decided that that was no longer okay. And honestly, my own opinion, having been a bookkeeper for 10 years and done taxes for 30 years, the IRS wants their slice of the pie always. They're always looking for the money that they're missing out on. And if people are not employees, the employer, potential employer, business owner, is not paying their half of the FICA tax. And so the government is not making their money.
Yay.
That's really why they changed it. It looks like a thing that was there to protect the people. That's not real. They changed it because they need to make their money, because most of what the government has borrowed and what our government owes is from our Social Security, and they've borrowed from us. They need that pot to be kind of filled again and reinforced again. So I kind of think that I don't know that that was put in place to actually protect people. But I understand that legally right now, everybody is supposed to be an employee, and that change can be hard for some people. It can be a big deal. And going from being a solopreneur to being a business owner, that's a big deal too, because it takes so much more time, so much more effort to do all of that. So yeah, that's huge. I think when you're in massage school, somebody needs to tell you all of this so that you fully understand the different places that you could go when you leave massage school. We have graduates who have been wildly successful in multiple different places because we told them the whole time, well, you may go work for a spa. You know, you may work for yourself. You could work for a chiropractor. You could work for a gym. You know, there's so many different places that want massage therapy. As a school owner, it's just irresponsible not to inform them what
Yeah.
the industry looks like.
Have you heard of I was listening to a TED Talk the other day, and a musician was talking about, I don't know, do not quote me on this. I just watched a TED Talk, all right? I need to look it up to see if this is actually a thing or if it will be a thing. But in the TED Talk, the musician was talking about starting something called, and I think it's called an A Corp. We've heard of like what is it, C Corps
Hmm.
or B Corps or whatever. S
Corp,
Corp,
C
sorry,
Corp.
is an A Corp for artists. And I'm thinking, oh, that might be something really interesting to look
Hmm.
into tax wise on how to file your business, seeing that this person is starting this movement or has started or something about how performers and musicians and artists and people who get paid super randomly for artistic gigs, how they can get paid and be financially successful and actually benefit themselves. So I'll have to look into that and put some more info in the show notes. But getting
Wow.
back, right, I'll send you a link if I can find it
Yeah.
later. But so that's something to keep in mind, just a little juicy bit. I'll probably edit that part out the episode. So owning a school, tell us about the textbooks. How does all that work? Do you need to have specific textbooks by specific publishers? Does the state mandate certain things in your curriculum, or you can submit whatever curriculum you want and they just approve it? How does that work as far as how to know where to pull your education from or to choose what you're teaching?
In Colorado, the state does not mandate what you teach. As long as you meet the minimum number of hours and certain minimums, you have 100 hours of anatomy and physiology and I think it's 30 hours of pathologies, right? A certain number of hours of hands-on. You have at least 50 hours of a student clinic, right? Some kind of
Oh,
experiential thing. So either student clinic or internship. But Texas regulates everything that you put into your massage curriculum. Yeah. So, and Texas is one of the
problem
stricter
state.
states when it comes, well, yeah, when it comes, excuse me, to massage curriculum. Most states are only interested in you hitting minimums, and they do not dictate which textbooks you use. They want to know so that they know if those textbooks are appropriate, but beyond that, they don't care.
So it's mostly
Um,
just the hours that's more important to them.
yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're regulating how many hours to make sure that you have the number of hours that is going to allow people to take the test and get licensed. So again, this is about protecting the student's money. So as long as you have the number of hours that allows people to take the MBLEX and get licensed in the state that you are operating in, so the students did not waste their money by going to school with you, they approve you. Right? You've hit a few different minimums, but very few, and they're approving you. Because again, it's not necessarily about massage, it's about protecting the consumer. And so then you look at things becoming an assigned school with the NCBTMB. They have a stricter guideline of what your curriculum needs to include. You look at things like CompTIA and eventually becoming accredited. CompTIA has a very strict guideline on what your curriculum needs to include. So when I wrote the curriculum this time for Full Circle, I wrote it with CompTIA and the NCBTMB in mind so that we could get approved by them pretty much as soon as possible. So I became accredited about, I would say, a year and a half after starting our program. And we were an assigned school almost immediately with the NCBTMB because I wrote the curriculum purposely that way. So yeah, like you have to look at other things because the states don't concern themselves with massage a huge amount.
For somebody who's been in this career for a while and they're like, I'm ready to open up my own school, what are some of the best pieces of advice that you would give them to get started? Because I know that's such a loaded fucking question because I know what Jess went through and everything. But how can one decide if opening a school is the proper choice for them versus just doing stuff online like I'm doing and teaching people in that way?
I think you really want to talk to other school owners, even if you're just having a half an hour conversation with a couple of different people to understand the legalities, the ins and outs. There's somebody else that we both know right now who's opening a school down in New Mexico. She tried to talk to school owners in New Mexico, and they wouldn't really talk to her. So there's that sometimes the school owners won't actually speak to you, right? But if you can get somebody to talk to you about what the legalities are and how much money you have to outlay in order to do that, and that sometimes is a big expense. Like in Colorado, it's going to take you about, I would say, 6 months minimum to actually open a school. Before you open the school, you have to have your location. So you're signing a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year lease before you know if you're approved because they
Right?
have to
Oh,
do a site check. They have to check to make sure you have classroom space, to make sure that you have everything you need within the classroom. So they've got to do a site check before you can get approved. So first there's the outlay of money to fill out the application, which is $5,000.
ooh,
Then if you're getting more than one or two things approved, you have to pay for each thing individually, which is $500 per class or per item. So you can do a full program that counts as one. But if you're doing continuing education as well, or more than one program, you're going to end up paying extra money. If you have more than one location, you're going to pay more money, right? And then you have to have the facility before they're actually going to approve you.
right. And
So you
multiple
could be
leases
paying
are
for
not
that facility for months before you get the approval. And then you can't run a class right away. You can't advertise, say you're a school, or do anything until you have the approval. And it takes about 3 months then to get an actual class together. So you're really looking at like a year of just outpouring money, like money and money and money and money, time and time and time
not
before
to
you actually start
mention
your first class. Yeah.
and not to mention all the equipment. If you have to buy all the
Yep.
tables and books and all of this. You're
Yep.
putting that money up front before you start getting
Yep.
enrollments. Oh my God.
Furniture, like it's a huge thing. Bolsters, blankets, everything that you need for massage, you're paying for. Thousands upon thousands of dollars that you're putting out, hoping that people are going to come to your school. And
Yeah.
we've been in a downturn in massage for a while now. So you're hoping that you're going to get enough people to make this worth your while. You never know if
How
that's going to happen or not.
how did Full Circle do during COVID? I know a lot of schools shut down and everything. So, you have a school, you're investing in all this money, you still have rent to pay. God knows commercial leases are way more expensive on schools than they are just a
Hmm.
massage studio, and you still have to pay that regardless. So you have to consider stuff like natural disasters and pandemics and all of that and have money squared away. You came out on the other end, probably not unscathed, but how did you go through the process of just not going completely fucking insane during COVID while dealing with all these other schools shutting down and people trying to learn hands-on therapies online? How did you have to shift things up during that time?
We were only shut down for about a month.
What? Awesome.
Yeah. And in that time, we did all Zoom classes, all lecture. And then when we came back and they allowed us to come back, our classes were small enough and our classroom was big enough that we met all the standards that the state gave us about spacing. I invested in a ton of air purifiers all over our space to keep everybody healthy and safe. Really, once the students came back, nobody got COVID at the school. It was kind of miraculous. And then we did all hands on for a period of time after they came back. What did happen is because the majority of my business is continuing education. And because I could not teach on the road, or those classes were very, very small when I did start teaching, it is a huge thing to open up a
Oh,
school, and it is a
you
commitment.
were talking about the majority of your stuff CE classes. What
Yeah,
are they?
so let's talk about that for a second. I
Yeah.
think there are an awful lot of talented therapists who could teach CE classes. I think the problem that we have is many of the therapists that I've seen teach don't decide to do that until they're very tired, their hands hurt, and they can't really do a lot of hands-on work anymore. And then they want to jump into it without organization and without really knowing how to go about that. That becomes difficult in one of two ways. Either they draw people to them, but their classes are unorganized and people start complaining about them. And we live in an incredibly viral world. And so the second that people are complaining about you, nobody is going to come to your classes, right? Or nobody is drawn to them because they don't know what to do to bring people into their classes. It is incredibly beneficial and valuable to take a class from somebody who's been there, from somebody who knows what it is to put together and teach continuing education. And there are several of these people out there, but it's incredibly valuable to do that because it helps you to organize your project, your thoughts, your class, right? It helps you to understand the financial aspects of that. Um, and it helps you feel confident in launching that. It gives you marketing tools. These people know what they're doing. So being able to talk to them, to have time with them, to practice your class is an invaluable thing. So I would say if you really want to be a continuing education teacher, again, the trick is to talk to people who have been there,
Yeah.
is to really like take a class with somebody who's done it and let them help you get that off the ground.
Yes. And I do want to end the episode on one important thing that I know we are both very passionate about, which is teaching disabled students as well. And we need that in mind whenever we're creating our classes and curriculum. Do you want to touch base a little bit on that?
In this particular go round with our basic program, because we've done a basic program now twice, the first time for 10 years at Full Circle, this time for 5 years. This time in this last 5 years, we started working with the Division of Vocational Rehab, or the Department of Vocational Rehab. So we had a lot of blind students come through our 650-hour program. and people with other disabilities as well. Some were hearing impaired, some had physical disabilities. As a teacher, that's something that you have to navigate, right? You always want to know, what do disabled people actually need from you? Because I think we make assumptions about what they may need. But I can tell you, one of the things that I learned very early on when we were getting a lot of blind students was, it is extremely important to them to be independent. And so one of the things that we would do right away is we would help them map the space so that they knew where the bathroom was, they knew where the classroom was, they knew where the break room was. And then basically they hardly wanted our help at all. They
Did
really wanted to do things on their own, right? And so at varying levels, depending on the disability, that is very, very important to disabled people. And then talk to them like they're part of the class. So many teachers kind of behave as if those students, I don't know, don't belong there, or
thought?
yeah, or they just kind of ignore their disability and teach in the way that they normally teach. And you've got to include them in your instruction. Many times when we would include the blind student in our instruction, that would actually lead to better instruction for people who were not. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was
I
kind
learned
of an
that a
awesome
lot.
thing.
I learned that a lot in your adult learners course too, how no matter how good you think your idea is in your classes, you're still going to have to tweak it. You're still going to have to make sure that you are being engaged and that you're not losing people's interest and that you're able to capture the audience of people who may only be able to learn via audio or something. And I had to change a lot of my stuff after I went to your class and trim it down. And I realized it helped me realize what my own teaching style was and how to curate that better for people to learn. And that was really great because teaching adults
If
is a whole hell of a lot different.
if you have that, it is. And if you have that going in, you're much more likely to be successful. So, yeah, you're fantastic, honey. You're a great teacher.
Thank you. I need to brush up on my Spanish, so maybe I can teach in Spanish one day, or I may just have my classes translated. Tip for CE instructors: if you want to make more money, just translate your classes into a different language. You don't need to create another class. Just say it.
It is true. It is true. I should do that too.
Don, I really appreciate you. I know you have a massage therapist to teach, so we can continue to change the world. I appreciate your insight and everything. And of course, this would be I'm going to do a series of interviewing several different school owners for different perspectives on different
Mhm.
things. I'll hop into the financials and other stuff and with other people's experiences later and stitch them all together. I appreciate you, Don. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being on, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Don.